Hello, everybody, and we are back. The three musketeers of the Hangouts across Europe. Yes, because today we have Sophie from Sweden. He's already from Sweden, but today she's in Sweden. I'm in Portugal, and Peter is still in UK, England.
But from Australia.
But from Australia. So we have quite a diverse bunch over here because today we are going to talk about 9 ways to work and benefit from diversity. Interesting thing, we decided this topic before one event. I was just checking a moment ago. We decided this before the Brexit vote. So it was a hot topic, diversity, and is it important diversity or not? And we decided to discuss a little bit about diversity. And today, to make things a little bit different, we will start with Peter. So, Peter, can you give one of the 9 ways of work and benefit from diversity?
Okay, so probably a good starting place is to simply truly understand the power of diversity. I think often people think of diversity as something that's the politically correct thing to do, that to make sure that every person is valued equally and so on. And in fact, if we look at the ongoing debate here in the UK about the representation of women on boards, for example, and talking about having a more diverse representation, both ethnically and in terms of gender, in decision-making space, like in politics, in boardrooms. A lot of people are thinking of it in terms of, give people a chance to get involved, to represent their own backgrounds, their own gender or whatever. And I think while that's important, I think people often forget that diversity is actually a source of great power and creativity. And so it has to go beyond political correctness and to the place where people understand what's possible when people from diverse backgrounds work together. And I had my first lesson in the power of diversity when I was growing up on a farm in Australia, because my dad taught me about something in biology that's called hybrid vigor. And hybrid vigor is when you bring together 2 different genetic strains, and the offspring are much stronger, much better. And if you think about what happens in nature, it also happens in human affairs. So when people come together with different backgrounds, different perspectives, and they work well together, then the outcome is superior. So if you think about creation and innovation, where new ideas are sprung from, it's from people thinking differently and pooling their ideas and coming up with something better. So it's not about who's right and who's wrong, but what can we create together. So yeah, I think we just need to recognize it's the source of great power and creativity and, in fact, joy. I think when people work together well and respect each other's points of view but look for something better. The Brexit thing at the moment in the UK is fascinating to me because people are using it as a source or an excuse for division. They're taking strong sides and arguing, and really, whichever way the vote went, what should be happening is everyone says, well, let's move forward, let's create something new, let's turn this into an opportunity. And I'm very encouraged when I see people talk like that, but discouraged when I see people just retreating to a particular side and arguing that they're right.
Yeah.
So, Sophie, do you want to give our second way of benefit from diversity?
Yes, of course. Good morning, everyone. Great points, Peter. Diversity and Brexit is so sensitive at the moment, and I've been in London. I just back from London, and it was really tense. And the people I met there, they were like, I woke up in a new country. I woke up in a new place which I don't recognize. So the British soul is hurt in so many ways.
Sophie, can I ask one thing? Can you just a little bit the camera? Sometimes your eyes, I cannot even see them.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Is it better? Is it better?
Yep. Put your camera up a bit.
Okay, yeah.
That's better.
Sorry. I don't sit in my normal workspace. Yeah, but anyway, so my first point is about branding and how you are sort of getting yourself out in the world as an employer. And there is one thing that has changed in the last 10 years, which is tremendous with the internet, and that's personal branding. And it means that people have a voice about what's going on in their workplace, and if these voices are diverse, your company has a very interesting profile. So if you put these kind of things into your branding, and you make sure that you would like people who have diverse thoughts to talk about these things on the internet, you get a lot of free publicity, and it makes it more interesting. And then, yes, one more thing. Like what we've seen in British politics is like the boys' club. They have been setting up things in a messy way, and now Theresa May need to come and clean up after them. And yes, because you get a women leader, or you get like people from different age groups or cultural black backgrounds in there. There's like no cure if it's bad management done for years. Diversity, might not be the solution. It just might help you in different ways. But if you haven't messed up everything in your business, you may be able to benefit hugely from diversity.
Okay. One of my first one is in terms of organizations. We should be diverse or die in terms of organization. An organization, if it's not diverse, it will die because the world is diverse. So we have to. I have an echo. I think it comes from Sophie. Sophie, can you disconnect your microphone? Thank you. If we don't have a diverse organization, we cannot handle a diverse environment, because one of the things that we can see on the decadence of any organization is when they started being only people thinking the same way. Because it is normal. When you reach a leadership post, at some point you start picking people that are just like you. You are having your own clones, and they can be ethnically diverse. They can be diverse in terms of gender, whatever. But they might think just like you, and that is a big mistake. So you have to be diverse as an organization in order to survive in a very diverse environment. Peter, can you give our fourth way of working and benefit from diversity?
Yeah, and before I do, I just remember seeing a program on television about the gender diversity, and I always remember this. They got groups, 3 different types of groups to take on a task, and one group was all male, one group was all female, and one group was mixed, and they had to do these tasks, competitive tasks, and every time the mixed group did far better than the group that thought and acted in the same way. So that just reinforces the point you made. My second one is that we need to remember the common humanity behind our differences. I think it's great to celebrate difference and see it as a source of power and creativity, but unless we actually respect each other intrinsically as human beings, then it's never going to work. and what happens too often, we focus on what makes us different, whether it's our political views, our gender, our ethnic background, social class, our education. And if we focus on what makes us different, then we have no way of connecting, and we have no way of building rapport. So we need to have the best of both worlds. We need to be able to understand, respect and work with our differences, but at the same time we have to enjoy the fact that we are all human beings, and then that way it gives us the foundation to work well together.
So, Sophie, give us our fifth.
Yeah, I would like to continue on my path of the workplace and recruitment, and I've heard about some American sports team, and it was American baseball, and they were like they were not very inclusive in their recruitment strategy for coaches. So they almost had like the same kind of coach all the time. And it was not until they wrote all over like the advert, we will consider all applications, and there must be at least one from a mixed race background or black background in the recruitment process. There must be at least one. So please apply. And this made a big difference for the whole league, and they got much more diversity among coaches. And I think it's so interesting with, like, we have outside diversity, like we have gender, age, background, class, you know, education, religion, sexual orientation, all these kind of things. They're quite outward sort of focused. We have this inside diversity, which are like values, behaviors, and biases, friendships, network, all these kind of things, which is actually as part of your behavior. And I think many times we look at those outside diversity too much, but it's actually maybe having a bit of inside diversity that we are looking at to strive for. Because it would be ridiculous to say that just because I went to a certain university, I would have a similar values, because of course not at all. And I think it's like, my point is that I would like to give everybody, like, as an advice, is to point out in your recruitment process, whether that's on your own website, in a magazine or wherever, that you encourage people from different backgrounds to apply, and that maybe some organizations do like what do you call it? They say that they won't look at things which are the outside diversity. They will not look at your gender, your university, and these kind of things, which actually can exclude a lot of people. Especially in some countries, I know that they exclude people. You know, if it's not among the top 10, top 20 universities, they won't even look at the application, and I think that's a pity.
So my second is let's think about the brain. There are people that are much more analytic, and there are people that are much more creative. The thing is that we have, when we are addressing, for instance, an audience, we have to think that in that audience we will have analytic people and we will have creative people. And you will be one of them. You will be more analytic or more creative. Like probably 70% analytic, 30% creative, and this is a very analytic way of putting it, for instance. But you will have creative people in the room. So the way that you communicate with people is also important. You have to address both types of people. But also you have to have in your team those types of people. You have to have creative people, you have to have analytical people. The big issue is that you have normally the tendency of having people like you. So if you are putting a team together to do some project or something like that, your tendency is to put the people that you work the best, that will be exactly at the same pace as you. And that will, or you will have no, let's say, project management skills in the project, because you don't have analytic people there, or you will not have any creative solutions for any kind of problems that always happen in a project. So you have to always be careful in putting a team, no matter the origin, if it's a woman or a man, if it's from one ethnic background or the other, if it's from a sexual orientation or the other, whatever, because you might go for stereotypes that some sorts of people are more creative and others are more analytic. It's like you were saying about the basketball team, and there is like a kind of notion that every black people play well basketball. Well, I know black people that don't play well basketball, and not, for instance, not every Portuguese people are terrific football players, even though we won recently the cup. But I'm the worst at playing football. I'm really bad. So actually, going for the stereotypes, when I was playing at school, the people would say that I would play like a girl. So, but now we have very good teams of women, and they probably play much better than I. much, 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 much better. So I would be kicked from the field. So, finishing my point, try to balance analytic and creative in every team that you build. Peter, your turn.
Right. I mentioned that Sophie made between internal and external diversity, and you added to that point. I think the idea that because someone has a particular gender or a particular coloured skin or whatever, or university, it means that they're the same, and of course it's what's inside us that is diverse as well as what's on the outside. So it's a really important point. Going back to what I said about hybrid vigour, of course, the reason that throughout history people have been encouraged not to interbreed, because that's where you start having genetic problems. Nature is calling upon us to be to use diversity. And if you think about family, and the word family and the word familiar, they're the same thing. And we like to be around people that we feel comfortable with because they think the same and it's familiar and so on. But of course that is not helpful in terms of coming up with new ideas and new ways of doing things. So my third tip is to make friends and contacts outside your normal social net, to have some diversity in the people that you interact with, to continue to stimulate your thinking. And of course that's another reason why travel is a good thing.
Sorry? We are having issues with Peter. Technical issues, of course.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Only technical issues. Can you hear me or not?
Yes, we can.
So what I was also saying was travel is it also is good, and that doesn't mean doing what a lot of English people do, which is they go to a little pockets of Spain where there are lots of other English people eating English food and watching English football, but not actually, just with nice weather. That's not really travel. True travel is to go to different places and meet different types of people. So in networking, there's this concept of the strength of weak ties, which is where groups that know each other have lots of interconnections, but the power of having a person who knows someone outside that normal network opens up all sorts of opportunities. And that applies whether you're talking business, whether you're talking dating, whether you're talking job opportunities. It's good to be able to connect into other networks and not just stick it with the same group. So that's mine. Third one.
Before Sophie gives her third way of working and benefit from diversity, from the audience, if there is any question, we are, as always, open to questions. Sophie, so your third.
My third is about, I just want to make a point first, like, I've been very active in JCI as Filipe, and I have had some of the most,
JCI being Junior Chamber International.
exactly, and I've had some of the most amazing, diverse experiences being there. And I've been talking about like poverty issues, leadership issues with people from different parts of, I don't know, all over the world. I remember particularly a Nigerian woman who was amazing. We had a most amazing discussion. You know, I will never forget our discussion about what are the real issues. And I come there with my Swedish, very sort of, oh, we do everything right attitude. She's like slamming me. No, you don't. I'm like, right. And also, like, I've been working on some very interesting projects with people from different parts of the world in JCI, and when you let people's mind flourish, gosh, you get the best ideas, and it's just amazing. I would never have gotten all these amazing things done if it wasn't for the diverse thinking. And there are several problems in the world where we have to use cognitive brain power to get these things solved. And there are like things that have been around forever: equality, feminism, like anti-racism campaigns, and like these kind of things. These are like big and complex movements, and they will never go away. We will have them with us for the rest of our lives. Whatever is happening in the world, they will always stay there, and there will always be people speaking up. And I think if you are maybe not that aware about these movements, go and have a history lesson with yourself. You know, read, watch documentaries, watch YouTube, and like all these things. Like, I've been working a lot with internet justice, and like how we can make the internet a better place. That where do we want to go in the future with the internet? And we are not having a nice internet at the moment. We are really not including people. It's not welcoming diverse thoughts. If you have diverse thoughts on the internet, you might be one of those who's going to be harassed by hackers for like several months and get your life destroyed. And to solve these kind of problems, I'm pretty sure that we need diverse thinking. So if you're not up for it yet, if you haven't explored these kind of things, you know, use Google, use YouTube, get a book, whatever, and start learning. It won't take that long to pick up on what's going on. And these movements will never go away.
So, Sophie, I will give my last one, and picking up on what you're saying, my last one is diversity starts with you. With you, not with you, Sophie, but with each one of us. And the thing is that we have to challenge ourselves. And you were saying about the internet is not really a space where people can say things. And one of the things, one of the exercises that I do, for instance, is that I have on my Twitter feed, I try to have completely different sources of information. Because if we look, for instance, to the media, there are different medias. So I remember when I was, one day I was having breakfast, and I started watching TV, and Israel was bombing the airport in Beirut. Immediately on Skype, I started talking with my friends, JCI friends from Junior Chamber in Lebanon, about what was happening, because I know several people in Lebanon, and they asked me one thing that was very interesting: what your CNN is saying, because what we. And it was at the time where CNN was a little bit more important than nowadays. Now it's like a channel that you see on airports. But you have like several CNNs. You have CNN Middle East, you have CNN Africa, you have CNN US, you have CNN Europe, and each one have a slightly different narrative. And if you change even from channel completely, if you go on the other side, let's say, like Russia Today or Al Jazeera, you get a different notion. So in a way to understand the world, I'm not saying that let's say CNN is the best, or Al Jazeera is the best, or RT is the best, whatever. No, what I'm saying is that in order to understand the complexity of this world, you have to hear several views, and then you have to do your own reasoning about. And better, even better, is to have connections inside the country. So that was what I did in the Lebanon affair. So I had like people that actually were also diverse from different views in Lebanon. What is very easy, by the way, because it's a very diverse country. So I got a clear picture of the situation and not a 0-1 picture, because the media tend to simplify things. That's why the Middle East is so complicated for the media, because it is easier to see the world like the good and the bad, like we played when we were kids, like the Indians and the cowboys, okay? And by the way, at the time, the Indians were the bad guys.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting. But if you see all the westerns that were made in the 40s, 50s, 60s, the Indians were always the bad guys.
Yeah.
They were the guys that, but historically, oops. So you have to challenge yourself. This is a small way of challenge yourself with diversity. Of course, I agree with Peter with traveling, for instance. Very, very important. But traveling, not like Peter said that some British, but not only British, but a lot, for instance, the Japanese do more or less the same. They go to places where they feel at home. You have to feel the discomfort of not being at home, but making the connections to make feel you at home in any place in the world. And that, for instance, picking on what Sophie was saying, Junior Chamber International is absolutely fantastic. Because as Sophie, I have been very active in this organization, and it's so interesting to go anywhere in the world and feel at home, because you have people from this wonderful organization that is welcoming you and giving you a very diverse explanation about the situation of the country and how they see the other countries and things like that. So I had these kind of experiences, for instance, in places like Russia, like in Syria, like in Lebanon, like in India, that how people see the world from that side and they see themselves from that side. So, and that makes you more smart, because diversity, like Peter was saying, gives you that hybrid vigor that is so important to survive in this complex world. So. Once again, if there is any question, this is the last opportunity to make a question. If there is no more questions, Peter, Sophie, always a pleasure to talk with you guys, to have this now half an hour format where we always have 9 ways of improving our lives. So, Peter, Sophie, thank you very much for sharing your knowledge with us. And we will go for holidays nowadays, because it is time for holidays, and we will be back in September, and we will see which date, and we will advertise it as normal. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.